the Irish guy, and right. That was a pretty dull international week, wasn't it? Are you all sick to your teeth of Lee Cosley football? Well, today I'm going to take a look through every Premier League team and find each side's most overrated player. And I know this one is going to cause outrage in the comments. Right, let's go. Arsenal, Gabriel Jesus. This one is on me. I always thought that Gabriel Jesus was a supreme goal poacher who just needed to be unleashed from the Manchester City bench. I thought he would go on to win the Golden Boot with Arsenal, but really, his goal-scoring numbers aren't even an improvement on Lacazette's. 4 goals last season was truly pathetic. The fact he hasn't scored a Premier League goal since January, just dreadful. Aston Villa, Morgan Rogers. Don't look at me like that. I realize this is the absolute worst time to call Morgan Rogers overrated because everybody is swimming in Rogers fever. Christ, well, pretty much everyone I've invited on the Premier League predictions so far has talked about Rogers as if they were describing a mermaid.
I'm going to give a goal to Morgan Rogers. He's been amazing.
Rogers, very impressed with him when he played against the Arsenal a few weeks ago.
Everyone is absolutely in love with this 22-year-old. After a brilliant start of the season, sure, but lads, the media have been talking about this guy being the next Jude Bellingham. The next one. Rogers is older than Jude. Look, I know he came through at Man City as well, but Rogers is not in the same league as the likes of Cole Palmer. There's a reason this man has yet to win a senior England cap. Listen, he has been a quality £15 million buy for Villa and is a huge upgrade on Jacob Ramsey, and he does look like a robust, technically brilliant, long-busting attacking midfielder. Don't get me wrong, he's very good. But the English media have been chatting about this guy as if he's the blonde Zidane, and look, we have heard him in post-match interviews. The guy's not a media-trained robot. He's actually got a Jack Grealish-esque personality too. So I just know the media are going to be slapping a £100 million price tag on his back, even when he's got less caps than Patrick Bamford. He's a good player, yes, but I'm going to tell you now, he's going to retire with less caps than Jermaine Genius. And hopefully less scandals too. Born with Alex Scott. I'm not sure if Alex Scott is even overrated. Most people seem to think she killed Football Focus. But the Bournemouth midfield talent, the less famous Alex Scott, when he was bought from Bristol City for a mega bucks, £25 million, people were lavishing praise on the guy. But that was mainly because back in February, Man City thrashed Bristol City in the FA Cup and Pep Guardiola unhelpfully labelled him an unbelievable talent. Lads, I'm sorry, but have we not realised by now that Pep always over-exaggerates? I remember once him saying that Maurizio Sarri's Napoli side were probably the best team he's ever faced before. He would soon be slapping Sarri 6-0 up in the Premier League. I mean, Nathan Redmond said that Pep chased him around the pitch after a match, telling him just how good a player he was. What? Redmond is always at the natural talent of a bowl of chicken nuggets. Look, Scott is a nimble, talented 21-year-old. And considering he was born in Guernsey, he probably grew up with a photo of Photoshop on his bedroom wall. But he's had some pretty serious injuries and he cannot buy himself a Bournemouth start. He's a decent, quality little player, but I don't reckon he'll ever play for England. Whereas the other Alex Scott has nearly 150 England caps. Yikes. Brentford, Fabio Carvalho. Lads, I think the hype for Fabio Carvalho might be slowly dripping away into a wet paper bag after being found out at Liverpool. But don't forget just what a sizzling prospect this Portuguese playmaker was at Fulham. This guy was once seen as an incredible young player coming through the England underage system. But nowadays, he really is just an incredibly lightweight, yet technically good attacking midfielder who is mostly eating cookies on the Bees bench. I think Carvalho is like an Diego Aspas or a Luis Alberto. Somebody who would rip La Liga to shreds. But in the tough physical world of British football, he gets bullied more than a science geek in PE. Brighton, Evan Ferguson. Okay, I'm blaming myself. I feel like a grubby little fool because it was me. I bought into the Evan Ferguson hype and got stupidly carried away 18 months ago. I did a video tipping this Brighton striker to one day win the Ballon d'Or. But lads, why wouldn't I be excited? This was a fella playing against Frank Lampard's senior Chelsea side in a pre-season friendly. When he was 14, he exploded with 10 goals in the second half of the 22-23 season. He was being asked by hopeful journalists if he considered declaring for England. Last September, he belted in a Premier League hat-trick against Champions League Newcastle, and has done nothing since. Lads, it wasn't just me who got carried away. Alan Shearer was calling him a phenomenal talent. But now, so far this season, he's been given 5 minutes, 8 minutes, and 9 minutes on the pitch for Brighton. The guy's had such a little game time that he's not been kept on past the hour mark for Ireland. He hasn't scored a goal since November. It's nearly November again. That is an entire year of 0 strikes. That is scary Berahino territory. Before, I thought he had the ceiling of a Harry Kane, but now, I'm really worried that we're looking at the Irish Chris Wood. Chelsea Enzo Fernandez Fernandes. I think it speaks to how many buffoons there are in the Chelsea hierarchy that Enzo Fernandez was actually made a £100 million midfielder just 6 months after the club could have bought him from River Plate for just £8 million. Still to this day, I'm sure the king of Benfica is still laughing into his morning shreddies, because no way in a pigeon's nostril was he ever worth a 9-figure sum of cash. Look, this £100 million price tag was created by Enzo Fernandez scoring for Argentina in a tournament where they won the World Cup. He also became the youngest ever scorer of an own goal when he put into his own net against Australia. Lads, everybody was briefly sucked into Enzo fever. Remember when Jamie Carragher was on Sky Sports purring over a midfield masterclass for Chelsea? No. Look, whilst this man clearly has the brains of a carrot and should never be allowed to Snapchat again, I think we can all see that he is a good, ball-playing defensive midfielder. But he's a poor man's Bruno Guimaraes, that's all he is. He's a more tough-tackling version of Jorginho. Another man who had a freakishly overrated summer off the back of one good international tournament. I mean, that man was actually close to winning the actual Ballon d'Or. What? To put this in context, okay? To show how lukewarm and mediocre Enzo actually is compared to his price tag, if he was in the Chelsea title-winning teams under Mourinho, he'd have been given the same amount of game time as Thiago. Anyone remember him? No, he's about as memorable as a Taz chocolate bar. Crystal Palace Adam Wharton. Look, I hate to say this because I have been impressed by Adam Wharton ever since his move from Blackburn Rovers in February, but can everyone just relax? I think we can all agree that Crystal Palace's insane purple patch in the spring of 2024 was a fluke. It was a new manager that is absolutely not representative of where that Palace team are, and so fast-tracking Adam Wharton into the England squad for the Euros after just a handful of Premier League games. All that did was just expose the absolute deficiency in talented English defensive midfielders. I mean, lads, Gareth Southgate is literally at the Euros and publicly pining for Calvin Phillips, someone who's now with Ipswich, somebody about as glamorous as a hot dog you found in a swamp. There's absolutely no way Wharton should have been at the Euros with England after less than 100 career games, because since then he's been linked to Liverpool and Man City. Please, no, Wharton, whatever you do, do not allow yourself to become the modern day Jack Rodwell. You've seen how Pep chewed up Phillips's hype and spat it into a crocodile's mouth. Don't you dare sign up for 3 years of eating jelly beans on the City bench. Wharton is a decent midfielder, sure, but this level of immediate hype reminds me of when Sean Longstaff was playing for Newcastle under Rafa Benitez. He was suddenly getting a £50 million link with Manchester United. Yeah, 4 months later, he's suddenly been outshined by his little bro. Relax, lads. At best, Wharton is the next Gareth Barry, but at worst, he could be another failed potato like Rodwell. Everton Jared Branthwaite. Does anyone truly believe that Jared Branthwaite is worth the £100 million that Everton want? Lads, I know it sounds like sacrilege to pipe up and call Branthwaite overrated, considering most of the nation was ready to burn down Southgate's house for leaving him out of his Euro squad, but similarly, I'm sure if I had told everyone at the start of 2019 that Harry Maguire was overrated, you'd have all sent angry dwarves to kick me in the groin. I mean, don't forget, he had been a goal-scoring England superhero centre-back at the 2018 World Cup. He was a marvellously assured and composed Leicester City defender, and suddenly getting offered £200,000 a week to join an all-conquering Man City. When this man became the most expensive British defender of all time with that £80 million move to Old Trafford, I'm sure nobody thought he was an overrated greaseball back then. I just think Branthwaite is the second coming of Maguire. I don't see anything special about him. He just looks like if you stretched Angry Ginge. The man has only had just one quality Premier League season. I think he's the next James Tarkowski, who's going to eventually carve out a good Premier League career at a team like West Ham. Just relax. Fulham, Rodrigo Muniz. I don't think there's that many overrated Fulham players. Their fans are once again overrating a Carvalho at Craven Cottage. Just like with Fabio before they packaged them off to Anfield, everyone has been lavishing praise on Rodrigo Muniz Carvalho after a purple patch of form in the second half of the season, the minute they brought in actual competition in the form of Armando Broja on loan from Chelsea. But please, relax. That was just a modern day Amir Zaki. A rare purple patch of form. That's all that was. Ipswich Town Jack Clark. Okay, lads, I have to pick Jack Clark for this one because I live near Sunderland. I started my YouTube journey in Sunderland, and there's been murmurings for months that Jack Clark is the real deal up north. The way those fans would talk about him, you swear this Spurs reject winger was a mini Ronaldo. He was hyped big in the Sunderland Netflix doc, and before the Tynemere derby in January, their fans were trying to scare the Geordies by telling them they'd be ripped in half by this goal machine. To be fair, he did belt in 15 goals from the wing last season, so fair play, but he's been bought by Ipswich for £15 million, and whilst he's a fast, direct winger with a bit of skill, sure, I reckon this is going to be his only Premier League season of his career. Give it a couple of years and he'll be playing for some rubbish team in Turkey. Leicester City, Wilfred Ndidi. Remember when Wilfred Ndidi joined Leicester and was this tough tackling Nigerian midfield monster? People were talking about him being a larger Kante. The guy spent years being linked with mega money transfers to Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, Spurs. Yeah, he's now 27 and was available on a free this summer and nobody wanted to know, there is about as much fuss for Ndidi's signature as there would be if I announced I was selling my nipple hair as merchandise. Liverpool Queeving Keller. Look, I don't want to be mean because Queeving Keller has done well when he's played for Liverpool, but he's your typical backup goalkeeper who will be exposed when he stops warming the bench for a top side. I mean, lads, did anybody see his howler for Ireland against Greece last night? This isn't a child, he's 25. And yeah, I don't even think he's the best Irish goalie of this era. I still think Gavin Bazunu is the better goalie. And I'm sure if he was still at Man City, he could adequately deputise for a Brazilian superstar too, when given his 5 games a season. Keller is like Dean Henderson when he looked decent, when he was given a handful of games at Manchester United. They're both decent bottom half goalkeepers. Honestly, Keller is about to get shoved down to number 3 in the Reds pecking order next season. So once he gets his permanent switch away to a team like Nottingham Forest, he will just be that average Tom Heaton level of a goalkeeper. I mean, come on, I haven't forgotten about the time when he did kept goal for Liverpool on the final day of the season and let in 4 against already relegated Southampton. I think he's going to be exposed when he quits Anfield. Bazunu is the better one. Man City Oscar Bob. Look, I'm going to be honest. We haven't seen anywhere close to enough of Oscar Bob. I know he's injured right now, but people have been speaking about this Man City talent as if he is the next breed of Norwegian megastar alongside Haaland and Odegaard. Yeah, here's the issue. He turns 22 years old next summer and has had a ridiculously slow start to his career. He's played just over 800 minutes of club football. At 21, Michael Owen won a Ballon d'Or at 21. I won't deny that Bob is a technically astute little baller after being raised in the Etihad campus. Sure, but we've seen nowhere near enough of him. He only became famous a year ago. Nobody knew who he was during his teens, which is weird because he and his mother had a fight with FIFA to try and let him join Porto at 15. I don't know, when he eventually leaves City, he could explode like Palmer, or he could just be a damp mid-table squib who only looks good amongst world-class players. I mean, I'm sure Fabio Carvalho would look pretty excellent as a 10-minute cameos for City too if he was being carried by players like Silva and De Bruyne. Man United Mathijs De Ligt. Look, I've been saying this for years now. Mathijs De Ligt has had superstar Justin Bieber hype since his teens. But ever since quitting Ajax 5 years ago, he has contributed to both Juventus and Bayern Munich relinquishing their grasp on their domestic title dominance. He's actually made both sides worse, and he's now rocked up at Manchester United, where, to be fair, he has looked okay when he's played, but he has also contributed to the club's worst ever Premier League start. Honestly, this could be the 3rd European giant in a row who he has made worse. The guy is like bacteria slime, infecting every Champions League juggernaut who are foolish enough to employ him. Whatever about Virgil van Dijk, he ain't even better than Nathan Ake, who 5 years ago, during the De Ligt glory years, was getting relegated with Bournemouth, and yet he was the better Dutch defender all along. Newcastle Joe Willock. Joe Willock's career has been weird, because there have been flash moments at Purple Patches where he has looked like an outrageous footballer, like slamming in a worldie for Arsenal at Anfield in a ridiculous 5-5. One of the best goals I've ever seen at that ground. Honestly, it was like something Steven Gerrard would have done. He also chalks up one of the greatest ever Premier League assists, and outside of the boot curler for Alexander Isak against Spurs, something that De Bruyne would have done. And he also equaled a club record of scoring in 7 consecutive games whilst alone at Newcastle when Steve Bruce was at the wheel. That's amazing. But he's barely scored goals since. He's massively injury prone. Look, I'm not sure if he is overhyped anymore, because on his day, if he can produce his potential form every week, what he's capable of, then he would be a Champions League midfield megastar, getting picked by England for every international break. I genuinely believe that he has the talent to be another Bellingham. He's got an eye for goal, finesse on the ball, but he's also majorly inconsistent. He's like a mix of a prime Bellingham and the last 5 years of Dele Alli. So I'm not sure if overrated is the right word, but he's massively frustrating. Nottingham Forest, Ibrahim Sangare. Remember when Ibrahim Sangare was this powerful box-to-box midfielder at PSV and was linked with every top European club in the world? Yeah, then he joins Nottingham Forest and looks unrecognisable and is more underwhelming than a KSI track. Southampton Cameron Archer. Look, I think we might need to wash some of the hype of Cameron Archer's career, because yeah, he was once seen as an absolute hotshot young gun, deadly finisher of a striker coming through a Villa Park, sure, but I mean, there's a club who once kept a mouldy old Egbon Lahore for close to 20 years. I think it shows how much the times have changed, that Villa were forced to re-sign this guy due to a relegation clause in his contract at Sheffield United, and yet despite him scoring at Villa Park at Christmas, Unai Emery was still happy to get rid of him again, flushing him out to Southampton. And lads, his goal at Arsenal last week was just his 5th Premier League goal in his 46th match. He's a better Ryan Brewster. That's all he is. Both England underage goal machines, sure, but if either man ever wins a senior England cap, then I will do an entire video wearing my mum's dress and lipstick. Tottenham Cristiano Romero. Look, I realise the Spurs fans absolutely adore their centre-back warrior Cristiano Romero, but the way they've spoken about this nutcase, you'd swear he was the second coming of Rafael Marquez. But I don't see it. He's a good centre-back, but when it comes to previous Spurs centre-backs, he's not even peak Jonathan Woodgate. West Ham Silencio Somerville. Well, I said myself that Silencio Somerville would win the Premier League Golden Boot, and yet he can't even get in the West Ham team. So far, he's carrying out the Hammers' legacy of an Andre Ayew or Maxwell Cornet. Wolves' Jose Sa. Remember a couple of seasons ago when Jose Sa replaced Rui Patricio in the Wolves goal, and people were calling him the signing of the season. He was some superstar, next-level, world-class shot stopper. Well, he's 31 years of age. He has just 2 Portugal caps to his name, compared to his predecessor's 108. And after 3 seasons as Wolves #1, he's now been relegated to the bench, replaced by Sam Johnstone. Clearly, Sa's not actually all that good. Anyway, that's the review. Let me know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. What is the most overrated player at your club? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe as always. I'll talk to you in a while.